Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Hello and welcome to this week's Attacking Football podcast. We are doing our next episode on our series How to Fix a Problem Like. This week we are fixing Liverpool, and joining us is resident Liverpool fan Scott. How you doing, mate?
Doing good, yeah. How are you? Finally a Liverpool-based podcast.
I was going to say, you've been waiting for this for nearly a year now, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Also joining us, coming back for his triumphant return, Dylan. How you doing, mate? It's been a while.
I'm living the dream and I'm very well fed today, so I'm looking forward to it.
You looking forward to a Liverpool podcast? Okay, yeah, cool.
Well, as much as I can.
Okay. As ever, joining us in the studio is Alfie. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm excited for this one.
Me too. And our special guest joining us from Liverpool transfer room is Lewis. Lewis, how are you, mate? Welcome.
Thank you. You know what? I'm really good. I'm here to talk about fixing Liverpool, but I don't think you can fix what's not broken. But I'll try my best.
Oh, do you know what? That is the ballsiest intro we've had from any of our guests so far. I love it. Lewis, just a few weeks ago, you had one of the Attacking Football boys on the LFC Transfer Room podcast. How did that go, mate?
It was good. It was good. I mean, it's very, for Liverpool especially, it's such a wide fan base. It's really... It's great to get perspectives from other people who you might not necessarily hear from a lot. So, like, obviously, you guys are well versed in everything you speak about, so it's great to get your opinions on it. It's good to go to fans of rival clubs and get their opinions. So, having you guys come on and express your thoughts on Liverpool season and everything between it went really well. It's fantastic.
Well, mate, we 100% agree with you, which is why you're here today. It's for exactly the same reason. You can't live in an echo room as a fan base, otherwise you just listen to yourself. That's just what it is. Okay, so look, we want to give you the keys to Anfield. The podcast is How to Fix a Problem Like Liverpool, and as much as you don't think there are any problems, I'm sure there are some things that you would do differently if you were given the keys. So I think we're going to kick off with squad building. So we're going to give you each player from your squad. You're going to let us know whether you want to keep them or whether you want to send them on loan or whether you want to sell them. And then we're going to go through your transfer targets. So, Scott, whenever you're ready, my friend.
Yeah, so I've got the full squad list here, and there's a couple of players that maybe have their contracts are out. So if their contracts are out, just maybe say if you just maybe would you have renewed their contract or just let them go? Yeah. So we'll start off with the goalkeepers. We'll start off with Alisson Becker.
That is key. The best goalkeeper in the world. You cannot talk of Saudi. Alisson is so important to the spine of that team, especially moving forward for the young prospects around him, who we'll go into. It's so key to keep a bit of stability, and Alisson, he's 32. He's just not showing any signs of slowing down, so yeah, he's an absolute keeper.
Yeah.
Dylan, you've got something for Alisson, don't you?
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. Trust me. We done an exclusive the other day. He's happy at Liverpool, so.
So next up we have Adrian.
Out the door quicker than he came in, to be honest. No offense to him. Thank you for the Super Cup win, but no, he's just not a minute played. Move on from him.
Queven Kelleher.
Sell. I think no disrespect to I think Kelleher is the best backup in the league, barring maybe Ortega. It's more for him. I think he's too good to be a backup to a goalkeeper he's never going to displace, and we're very much a sell to buy kind of club. You can get 30 million for Kelleher. Go to a Celtic where you could be a club legend there. Go to a Wolves. They're linked with him today. 30 million quid. I'd sell Kelleher.
I respect that.
So now into the defenders. Joe Gomez.
Gomez is hard. I think Gomez keep, because I've got other players in mind that I'd like to sell, and I think he's just so versatile. You can fill in a gap anywhere, so I'd definitely keep Gomez.
So the next up is Virgil van Dijk.
Sell.
Get him out until he's a brain in the job.
The easiest keep on the list, probably. Ibrahima Konate.
Keep, but he does need to get these injuries. It's not his fault at all, but he does need to get these injuries under control, especially given the hype that he was meant to possibly take over from Van Dijk. Yeah, I keep him, but he needs to get it under control, definitely.
Costa Simicas.
Sell. Again, same thing as Keller. He's too good to be a backup. Get a good price for him.
Andy Robertson.
No, keep. I absolutely adore Robertson. Bring in someone to sort of not phase him out, but just reduce his game time. He's not getting younger. He's expected a lot of him, but I'd definitely be keeping him.
So this is the first player who's already leaving. Would you have renewed Joe Matip's contract?
No, I don't think. I think Matip's class, but it was a long injury he's already injury prone, and I don't want to hinder the likes of, say, Kwanzaa, who's coming through. We've got so many talented players. I think Matip leaving when he did was probably the right thing to do, and he was on a lot of wages, so I don't think I'd have renewed it.
Next up is Trent.
Keep him. I will sell my house to keep Trent. He is the most naturally talented player. Or he may be the best, or he's one of the best, most naturally talented players that this league has seen in years. He's so good at what he does. He's a generational talent who they talk about the right backs, how the positions evolved. It's because of him. He's the first sort of right back who you look at and think of when they talk about this new system, the way right backs play nowadays. He's the originator of it, and I'd be keeping him until he retires.
Can I ask you a question on Trent?
Yeah.
So, as we're recording this podcast, England are playing Bosnia, and Trent is playing in central midfield. Do you see Trent as a defender or as a midfielder?
I think defender. I think all this talk of him going into midfield is because we've seen what he can do in the inverted role, but I think you lose something putting him too central. I think his best ability is being able to put balls in from deep. He's good in the middle part. We've absolutely seen it a million times, but I think you put him through there, you lose something out wide, and there's no one who can match what he does. Conor Bradley's good, but I don't try and, like I said at the beginning, don't try and fix what isn't broken with him. He's not the best defender in the world by any stretch, but you've got other players around him who can accommodate that, or you could bring someone in to do it. So I'd definitely be keeping him at right back.
So next up is a player you've mentioned already, Kwanzaa.
Keep, yeah, absolute keep.
Conor Bradley.
Keep, yeah, no reason to get rid of him.
Endo.
I think Endo would be a good squad player, but we desperately need to look at the number 6 position. And like I said before, we need to sell to buy in this club. Endo is very much, he's only going to decrease in value. He's in his 30s. He's not a 30-game a season player. I just think if the right offer came in, I could definitely see a world where he moves on, especially with Badge Titch back and fit. So, yeah.
Thiago.
No. He's one of the most frustrating players
yeah.
There's people, I've always compared Thiago to, it's like if I buy a Ferrari and I pay all the road tax and I pay all the insurance, but then I don't put petrol in the car. Like, what's the point? It's like you're spending a lot of money for something that you cannot use. He's like the United game. He was unbelievable, but it's not worth it to see him play one. He played one time last season. Like, it's just not worth it.
He only had like 5 minutes this season against Arsenal, and then he got injured again after those 5 minutes.
Exactly. It's just not worth the hassle. And for potential talent, like Naby Keita was the same. He wasn't great, but he had moments of brilliance, but he was just too injury prone. It wasn't worth the risk or the money.
Yeah. He's on a big wage, isn't he, as well, Thiago?
Yeah, he's one of the highest, or he was one of the highest earners in the squad, and that money can be used on, bump Kwanzaa's contract up, put more money into Trent, put it into areas of the pitch which have a potential future. Someone like Thiago, who's in his 30s, injury prone, and never necessarily fit the system anyway. I just think get the money off and put it elsewhere where it's needed.
Yeah. Dominic Szoboszlai.
Keep. Just needs his minutes managed.
McAllister.
Yeah, absolute key. He's our signing of the season, and he's just been a revelation. Absolutely keep McAllister.
Curtis Jones.
Yeah, same. Keep squad player, good lad. I say that like I know him, but yeah, he's really good, Curtis Jones. I'll be
Sound
absolutely
fella.
keeping him. He's a good fella, knows more. But I love a player who plays like they're a fan, and he is a fan, and he's really versatile in what he does. People compared him to Wijnaldum at one point, but then he got injured, so it dipped a bit. But he's in the England squad now. He's finally showing progression to the player that we thought he was going to be, and I see no reason to disrupt it by getting rid of him or talking of getting rid of him. So I'd say keep him.
Harvey Elliott.
Absolute keep. He's wonder boy. Yeah.
Where do you sit on the Harvey Elliott, Kobe Mainoo debate?
No, leave it. No, don't bring it up.
Kobe's in the England
do
squad. There is an argument that Harvey Elliott should be in there as well, if not in place of Kobe Mainoo. I mean, you can leave your Liverpool hat on or you can take it off, I don't mind, but there is a debate there that needs to be had, isn't there?
But they're different players, I think. Anyways,
Yeah.
It's hard to...
Yeah. Mainoo fit to roll for England, but we don't have, because there's no Calvin Phillips now, there's no Henderson. And I personally, as good as Harvey Elliott is, as class as he's been, I think Mainoo is looking the more mature player. He looks more developed and composed. Elliott's still a little bit erratic at points. There's other players who could make it ahead of Elliott, whereas Mainoo fits a purpose that the England squad desperately needs.
You think that's why Jones is in and Harvey Elliott isn't?
Yeah, Jones is a bit more. He's more versatile in what he can do. He can play that number 6 if you need him to. He's good going forward. He's a great passer of the ball. I think Elliott's very good at what he does, and what he does is press. He puts energy in. But if you want that, there's other players in that England squad who can do it. Whereas there's not a lot of players in that squad who can do what Mainoo does. He fits a purpose. Elliott would just be another. It's like a Jack Grealish kind of thing where you can see why he's there, but he's not going to offer a huge amount. I think Elliott would sort of be the same. I get why he was going, but there's other players who can do what he does, whereas there's not a lot of players who can do what Kobe Mainoo does.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, fair, 100%.
Next up, it's Ryan Gravenberch.
Keep. Slot could get him to work in the system. I see no reason to be rushing and getting rid of him. He's a good player, just it's stunted a bit for him, so I'd definitely be keeping him for this season.
Next up is Bobby Clark.
Loan away, but keep.
Would you say a Premier League loan, or do you think Championship or something like that?
He's good enough to go to a Premier League club on loan, but I think for game time's sake, it would have to be the Championship. I don't think any of the clubs that get promoted, he's not really going to be a starter for them. If he went to the Championship like Elliott did to Blackburn or Morton did to Hull, that would make a bit more sense for me.
Yeah. Next up is Bacecic.
Loan again. Just give him a little bit, even if it's short term. Like, he's had abductor problems. He's grown. I think it's 6 inches or 5 inches, something like that. We need to see how he gets on, and it's a bit too soon to be throwing him in the deep end. So I'd give him the pre-season to get up to fitness, and then send him on loan for a little bit.
James McConnell.
Same again, loan. We need these players for depth, but they need game time. I don't think they're going to get that right away on the slot, who's going to have a big point to prove, so send them out.
So now we're into the attackers. Luis Diaz.
This is where my stock's going to plummet. Diaz, for me, I think he fits slot system, but if all the front, I'd say he could probably go. It's so awkward because it depends what happens with like Salah and how Gakpo's going to play, what role he fits. I think if Diaz can find a bit of form at the beginning of next season, it'll be fantastic under Slot, who likes inverted wingers. But if it was up to me right now, I think he's got a bit of the Bolo's ending about him, where it's just head down and run, and we don't necessarily need that. So I'd probably be saying loan, sell.
Wow.
Next up is Darwin Núñez. Keep.
Not understand the criticism. I do, but I don't at the same time. I'm sorry.
Yeah, same. I love Darwin Núñez.
I love Darwin.
We
and
love
he's-
him too.
He's a moron. Don't get me wrong, he's a moron, but he's our moron, and he's. I mean that with so much love. I get that he misses chances. I get the Luton game. I get the Europa League, the Everton match. I understand all that, but you can't quantify what he does. And people go, "Oh, chaos," it's a made-up metric. Darwin Núñez is the most mobile of that front three. He's always in the right positions. He's selfless. If he's on the wing, he uses his pace. He's happy to cut inside. He's happy to provide for others, but he's a threat. And no one in that team, maybe Salah, but no one other than him can score the goals that Núñez does. He's a freak of nature who, when he's playing well, like he was before Salah went to AFCON, he's playing bloody well. And there's no one in that team who can sort of deliver the direct threat that he does, I don't think.
Do you think, though, in terms of the finishing, do you think that can be trained, or it's just going to be something he struggles with his entire career? Because it is a tough trait to train, especially at his age.
No, absolutely. I think you're right, and it is something that probably could be improved. And I think it will under Slot having a number 10 in the box with him. He'll have more options, so to speak. I think it can be improved. It definitely can. A lot of strikers have become really good lethal finishers as they've got a little bit older. I just think he's a bit erratic. He needs calming down at points. He just needs telling, right, I love the effort, but just bring it down a bit. You're in your own head. He can definitely get better. The finishing can definitely improve. I just don't think it's time to throw the baby out the bathwater. Second highest goals, second highest assists last season. And like I said, up until Salah went, he was unbelievable. So, yeah, I think he can definitely get better.
There's definitely a player in there, and I don't want to bring it into a Man United podcast, but what I will say is Andy Cole was exactly the same. He'd get 7 chances a game, he'd maybe score 1, but he was in a side that created so many chances. He's now rightly thought of as one of the greatest Premier League strikers of all time. Darwin Núñez is the same. There's a player in there, and his other attributes make up for the fact that he misses the occasional real bad sitter, and it makes for great watching on Twitter. We all love it, but I think he's definitely worth playing in your squad.
100%. Like the Brentford goal, the chip, that Sheffield United goal where he doesn't do anything special, but he presses the goalkeeper so much so the keeper boots it at him and it goes in. Like that, he will try those things that no one else will. And like the 2 players who missed the most chances for a large portion of the season were Mo Salah and Haaland. Not saying as good as them, but the reason they miss so many chances is because they take so many shots. That's how you get goals. No one is 1 shot, 1 goal, 2 shots, 2 goals. You miss chances. And I think when he's honed, when he's got a place in this team, a perfect system to fit him with inverted wingers and a number 10 alongside him, I think he'll really flourish.
You've hit
the biggest issue.
The side of a good striker is being in the right place at the right time to get those chances in the first place. Yeah. Sorry, Dylan.
No, I think the biggest issue with players like Núñez and other things is how they're perceived on Twitter by big accounts. We have it in the United fan base. Other fan bases have it in their kind of stuff. It's like when one big account on Twitter starts to paint a narrative about one player, then it starts to spread and spread and spread and spread, and suddenly it's a public perception everywhere. I think that's been a huge problem with Núñez. I've seen a lot of big Liverpool accounts slay him continuously. Even when I've been watching him, he's been having quite good performances, but you go on Twitter, you see these big Liverpool accounts saying Núñez has to go, and it's just, I don't know, it spreads like wildfire around the fan base on Twitter.
Yeah, and especially with like I do Redmen and stuff as well, and they've got the same thing of, we love him, but he is frustrating. And I think my answer is always, when we signed Núñez, he wasn't a position where we felt we needed strengthening. He wasn't a player we wanted. So when he does make a mistake, it's very much told you so.
Yeah.
But people like me, we've got it with rose-tinted spectacles because we spent so much money, because of who he is. We want him to succeed. So I will die on my sword for Núñez until the day where he starts playing like Voronin. I've got no problem with this team.
Andrew Voronin, what throwback.
I miss Voronin.
Baller. Keep ourselves, Voronin.
Bring him back.
Oh,
Next up, it's Cody Gakpo.
Yeah. I like Gakpo. I just don't think he's found a role in the team yet. There's people saying he's suffering from the same thing that Diaz did, where he's being compared to the person before him, i.e. Diaz and Mane. Gakpo's getting compared to Firmino, and you're never going to live up to that. So yeah, I just think he suffers a bit from that and not knowing exactly what his ideal position is.
And I think it didn't help, like what we were saying before with Nunes, didn't help when Carragher put out that tweet about Gakpo as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of players not playing in the position that they should be playing in, Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield has just scored an absolute beauty, a volley for England. Absolute beauty.
Let him on the plane.
Get him on the
start
plane.
11.
Mate, I'm sold. Put him in midfield. Stick him right wing. I'm in.
Speaking of players who can play in the right wing, Diogo Jota.
Now, I think this is the last season because as good as he is, the injuries now are getting a bit ridiculous. And it's more for him because I just think he needs his minute. When he comes on, he just plays every minute virtually of every game. He needs to be managed a bit better. And I think this will be his last season with us before he leaves next summer.
Cade Gordon.
Loan. Really, really talented player, but he needs the game time.
Ben Doak.
What did you say they won?
Ben
Where's the
Doak.
Irish accent? What did you say?
Doak.
Doak. Is it Doak or Doak?
I don't know.
I heard something completely different.
I'm going to give Scott the benefit of the doubt.
Doak, I want to give him the chance because he was good up until his injury. But there's a lot of options we have there at the minute, and I don't want to just loan out every single young player. Yeah. I think Doak is one that I'd like to say keep around the squad just in case of injuries and stuff, and give him the chance.
Yeah, Jayden Dance.
Keep him in the squad. Good option to have. Different. He reminds me of Divock Origi in that sense. He's just a different player to bring on.
And then there's the big one, Mohamed Salah. Are you selling or keeping him?
Get him gone.
Yeah. You know what? I go back and forth. Mo Salah is one of the greatest players I've ever seen play for us. He is the best right winger the Premier League's ever seen, in my opinion.
Anthony?
My left leg's better than Anthony on its own. Like, it's no offense to the lad, but no, Salah is just one of the greatest, and I've always said if it's the Suarez-Torres Salah debate, Salah's number one for me personally. However, this is a big window and a big season coming up, and we do need to start moving away from Klopp's system, which was the whole thing had to centre around Salah. If Saudi do come in, which I don't know if they will, but if they come in for 150 or 100 million pounds, that's a lot of money that can go in other areas of the pitch which need improving. So I'd like to keep him. But if the offer comes in, which is good enough, in the final year of his contract, I think I'd be moving him on and use the money elsewhere.
Yeah,
You've kind of not really given us an answer there, Lewis.
Sitting on the fence.
Keep.
So with Salah, though, the thing with him is he's kind of a player where you need two people to come in to replace the numbers he provides.
Yeah, it happens a lot with teams where like they lose the star player, and like Ronaldo season before, when he went back to United, he was doing great. They sell him, bring in Anthony and Højlund, and they just don't match the output. So there can be a detrimental effect. Like,
what's it the thing they say in Moneyball, replace him in the aggregate? And Liverpool do the Moneyball system anyway, so that's probably what they'll have to do.
Oh, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to dream about losing. It's just a scary thought, losing him. And
who could come in though? It would be either Kudus or Bowen, I'd say, for Liverpool, or Mbuemo. I've said for years that Mbuemo could be Salah's replacement.
I like Mbuemo.
Yeah, Mbuemo's good. I don't view him as a starter though. I think he'd be more a sort of a rotation player. Kudus is one I'd definitely be interested in if he was to come. Yeah. He looks so good for West Ham. I'm not sold on like Jarrett Bowen. I don't think that's a move that would work particularly for us.
Yeah.
And Bakayoko as well. He's Johan Bakayoko. I think that'd be a really good signing as well from PSV. So there's options. There's definite options out there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, look, you've managed to. Well, I think gutting the squad would be putting it politely. So we've been keeping score, and I can tell you that you've got one goalkeeper left in the squad.
What do you need? You've got the best in the world.
You've basically kept every defender in the squad apart from, is it Tsimikas? Yeah.
Tsimikas.
You sold Tsimikas, so you need a left back. You need nothing else. You've kept everybody else. Joel Matip has left, obviously, because he's out of contract, but I don't think you need a replacement there. You've got Kwanzaa that's come up from the from the youth.
From the academy.
Yeah. In midfield, you've got some issues, right? You've got rid of 5 midfielders. You've got 5 left, and you've got no 6. You've got no defensive midfielder. And then up front, I think you kept everybody. Alfie?
He said sell Luis Diaz, so
that's right.
A new forward coming in.
Diaz,
You've loaned out a couple of the younger boys, and you've sold Luis Diaz. Is he Colombian?
Yeah.
Colombia. Yeah. And if Salah, if there's 150 million for Salah,
there's 150 million sitting on the table for the Egyptian king. So there's a bit of work to do, mate. Bit of work to do. So, how do you think Liverpool are going to do in the market this summer? Let's start there, and then because you've got the keys to Anfield, who are you bringing in to plug these holes that you made?
Don't say that. That's just, oh god. There's a lot of players. There's some players there that like we haven't mentioned who are definitely going to be going. Sepp Vandenberg's one who I think Wolfsburg in talks at the moment.
Yeah.
You're going to get about 15 million of that. Nat Phillips 7 million round about that. Losing him. Reece Williams is going to go probably. There's a lot of young players in the squad. There's like the likes of Fabio Carvalho. We could sell him for money. It's going to be a strange window because for the first time in 9 years, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what to expect. And Michael Edwards being back, Julian Ward being back, Richard Hughes coming in, who today has been speaking about how he wants to upgrade the squad. He wants to upgrade certain positions. I'm not expecting it to be overly busy in terms of incomings because I just think Slot's going to want to keep a sort of core group to begin with. I do think we'll probably sign a left back. I do think we'll probably sign a number 6. There's a lot that are being touted around at the minute, but I'm not expecting some sort of crazy, sell 15 players, sign 10 players kind of thing. I think it's just going to be nice and steady. If we sign 3 players and that's it, I wouldn't be overly shocked.
If you are interested, I have a Brazilian 5 times Champions League winner who can play in your number 6. Dirt cheap.
You can say it. Go for it.
Okay. You need to bring in some players. You don't have a reserve goalkeeper. Where are we going?
There's a good number of young keepers in our ranks. Peter Luger's one. Who I think he's been on loans. He's had an injury, but he has been on loans to some good clubs. I'd be looking at maybe giving him a chance. Other than that, bringing anyone in, goalkeeper's not a huge market. I think whoever the backup is to Alisson just needs to be someone who can maybe just do a job. It doesn't need to be someone phenomenal. That's the problem you've got with Kelleher, is he's too good to be a backup. It's similar to Chelsea when they had Cech and Courtois, and they're both too good to be the backup keeper. Options-wise, I'm not overly sure. I know... God.
I think the only option we've really been linked to has been Alex McCarthy from Southampton.
Good goalkeeper.
I mean, yeah. He's an option. There is just a lot of different, lower down teams who are losing goalkeepers that you could look at as maybe a good backup. But I don't know many ball-playing goalkeepers because that's the way we want to play. I mean, have you got anyone that you can think of, Scott, who'd be a ball-playing goalkeeper who could substitute for Alisson when he's off?
I'm not quite sure.
Steele from Brighton.
Yeah, Steele could be an option. They've got Verbruggen who mainly starts for them. But depends, Brighton have a new manager coming in, so he might be I want to play Steele. So you never know.
James Trafford.
Trafford would be he'd be expensive though.
He would be 20-30 million. I think Chelsea want him as well. So City got so lucky with Ortega. It's crazy how lucky they got. They signed him from Armenia Bielefeld, and he is honestly such a good goalkeeper. He could probably replace Ederson if needs be.
Well, that's what I mean. We had the same when Alisson went off injured. Kelleher replaced him and we didn't miss Alisson. And it's the same thing with Ortega. You know, he steps in and you just, as good as Ederson is, you just don't notice such a big difference. But I think I'd just be looking at giving the young lads an opportunity as the backup. We've seen it with so many players this season. We have a couple of options from the youth system who could step up. So I'd be looking there rather than spend the money on backup keeper when the money needs to be invested elsewhere in the squad.
So for me, I'd be keeping Kelleher. I mean, you said it yourself. When Alisson got injured, he stepped into the side and it didn't even really look like you missed him. And that, for me, is the definition of squad depth. If you have somebody coming in to fill in for an injury, you want the team to function as if there was never an injury to begin with. Yeah. And as good as Kelleher is, he seems to be quite happy playing that role. And for as long as he's happy, I'd keep him for as long as he was, until he was knocking on my door going, listen, I should be starting games. Then you start to think about, okay, maybe you should be starting for another side if there isn't room in this one. Yeah. But, mate, you are blessed to have a goalkeeper as good as that sitting on your bench, and I'd keep him for as long as he's happy to sit there.
Yeah, he is.
So he is class. Like apparently, he said the other day that he wants to either be number one somewhere else or he wants to be number one here. So he is starting to, and he's 26, I believe. Yeah. So he is starting to give the ultimatum in a sense.
Yeah.
The issue is him and Bazunu in the Ireland squad. Like, he kind of needs to be playing regularly to overthrow Bazunu in the squad, and he finally did. When he started playing regularly for Liverpool, he finally pushed Bazunu out of the squad. So,
and I think now he'll be looking at, I think Bazunu's got a bad injury, he's out for like 8 or 9
ACL.
months. He'll probably be looking at that saying, I can go somewhere else, play for start games regularly, and I can cement my place as the number one while Bazunu is out injured.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. You need a left back, mate. You kept your entire defence apart from Matip, who's left anyway. Have you been looking at the left back position yourself in the market this summer?
I've had my scouts off to do their job.
Good man.
And there's one player who won, and I know he's probably going to cost a good bit of money. I think ARNE is tailor-made for Liverpool. I think he's absolutely the ideal player we want in that left back role, and he's a good age where, like I said before, Robertson, who has worked his socks off for years, he's finally starting to get injuries. You can see him, he's wearing down a bit. ARNE is the right age profile to slowly knock him out of the squad and make Robertson the backup. He's so good going forward. He's terrific going inverted. He's got a wand of a left foot. I think he's just the tailor-made replacement for the day Robertson goes. And coming from a Gary O'Neill as well, who the way he wants his Wolves side to play is so similar to the way that we want our fullbacks to play at points. It seems perfect.
See, he is extremely good.
I find it interesting. I don't know if this was trying to be smart in the market to fill a couple positions with 2 players, but it seems we're being linked with a load of centre backs who also play left back. I think we've been linked with your man Ignacio from Sporting, Pacho, and Hincapi as well.
Ignacio's, we did a stream about an hour ago actually talking about him, and I think it's 51 million around about that they're talking about price wise.
60 million
in today's market. That's a steal in today's market, and
for Ignacio.
Yeah.
I think
22-year-old centre back.
I think Liverpool are interested in Ignacio. I know they haven't spoken to Hincapi yet, anyways. So I'd say it would be either Pacho or Ignacio.
I'm happy with it. I mean, I think Hincapi, to be fair, as good as he is, the price would be ludicrous after
60,
this season.
70,
yeah.
So,
whereas
Fabrizio tweeted an hour ago, Manchester United and Liverpool have both been monitoring Ignacio ahead of the summer transfer window. His release clause is 60 million euros.
Yeah. They've got Johnny Evans. They don't need him.
I will have no Johnny Evans slander on this podcast at all.
That's not the back of the club. But I think another player, as we spoke previously about what Liverpool do with the data-led thing, I think Anthony Robinson is top on every metric for a left-back in terms of data from this season. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Liverpool go for him either, to be honest.
Yeah, he'd be a good option. And Fulham seem to be falling into the same thing of Brighton, where each summer, a big player gets poached, or Paulinho almost did last season. They lost Mitrovic. Brighton have lost like Caicedo.
McAllister.
McAllister. Yeah, so it would surprise. Robinson will be gone, I think, by the start of next season. I think he's another one who could be very good. I just don't know if I've seen enough of him to like compare him to Aït-Nouri, whereas I've been actively looking at Aït-Nouri through the season because I think he is going to come to us at some point.
I'll take Robinson just for the fact he's a former Everton youth player and it might wind them up.
Is he? Yeah.
They not have enough problems as it is, Scott.
Throwing shade.
Right, you are in charge, Lewis. Who is going in your left back position?
Robertson for now, and then Aït-Nouri, once he's been bedded in, start bringing him into the squad. I think. We've got like Owen Beck as well on away on loan. He's a very good player. We've got Scanlon. We've got Luke Chambers. There's no rush. If we brought in Aït-Nouri, I think Robertson still needs to start, and then Aït-Nouri can just sort of deputise where he needs to, sort of like Tsimikas is, and then eventually towards the tail end of the season, when you need that more energy, when you need to keep going, that's when he can sort of step into certain matches and slowly phase Robertson out. He's coming up to his 30, he's starting to get injuries. I think that's probably the best way to go about it.
Okay, Aït-Nouri it is. Good.
So then onto the midfield then. So we need number 6. That's kind of obvious. You're selling Endo. You're sending Bajcetic out on loan. So who do you bring in as number 6?
You know what? It's so hard. Looking it up, every number 6 is so expensive or is so there's no good priced ones. Ugarte was one who I think we linked with, but obviously he's at PSG. They astronomically ramp up the price. Andre was another one, but I've not heard a lot of him since last January or January just gone. So I don't really know. To be honest, I'm struggling. And I think the number 6 role this season, this summer, is where we're going to spend all our money. I think that's going to be the big signing. Who it is, I really don't know. No one is making sense today. We're with Kimmich. I don't. Kimmich's good, but he doesn't fit the profile. And then you got Tchouaméni. He's stupidly expensive. So I honestly couldn't give a definitive who. If it was up to me for getting any of them, it probably would be Tchouaméni. But
from Real,
yeah, or Thuram as well. I mean, Thuram could be another one, but he's a bit more attack-minded. I really don't know.
We haven't
I can't see Tchouaméni leaving Real Madrid. I mean,
I can't.
Cruz is just gone, which is an opportunity for Valverde to get to step up. Modric is going to go at the end of next season, and I think that's where you'll see Tchouaméni really come into his own.
Is there a likelihood that Slot will bring in Matt Sweeper from Feyenoord?
Yeah, that's what I was. But that's the only link. That's the only link that's really been clear on. I don't know if it's just a lazy link. Slot's Feyenoord comes Liverpool. Let's just link him.
Yeah, he is a very good player, though.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this because I'm met with very mixed response when I say it. I like my number 6 to just be a brick Lazar Markovic house. They don't need to be fancy on the ball. They don't need to be the most technical player. I just want someone who's going to break up play, who's just going to do the dirty work in defensive midfield and allow the other players creatively to get forward and create opportunities. I don't know if that's just me or what anyone else thought on it.
That's the old-fashioned kind of way a 6 worked, isn't it? I understand football has progressed, but at the end of the day, it's kind of the best thing. It's the most simple thing. And if your 6 can stop play going towards your goal, I understand getting out of the foresight and everything like that because football's progressed to being playing out of the back. But if your 2 defenders can do that to a successful kind of ability, which Van Dijk and Canate obviously can, Trent for Liverpool kind of becomes that player that plays for the first phase anyways. So do Liverpool really need a 6 top class at doing that? Probably not. And I think Weaver would kind of fit into that role of just being a brick that can just smash. Being a destroyer, basically. What Casemiro was for United last year. A destroyer who isn't really amazing on the ball. With his back to goal or facing play or anything like that, but just breaks up play and allows everyone else to kind of flourish.
Fabinho, he wasn't... He we were fortunate that Fabinho could score a long ranger and he was good on the ball, but he wasn't the best passer in the world. He just knew where to put himself. He'd either man mark someone so tight he'd smother them. I remember a Champions League game against, I can't remember, it wasn't Dynamo Kiev, something like that. And he was just, like, he didn't give them a second to breathe. But there's other matches where he just reads the play and puts himself in the right spot, ready for the pass to anticipate it. He wasn't the flashiest, but he was a solid brick wall, and you weren't getting past him without a fight. And that's just what I want. I think Weaver is probably the one I'd want because he's worked the slot before, and it just makes sense. Just someone to come back and protect that back four, which can be exposed at points, and just allow. We've got so many creative players. Just let one of them do the job going forward. He just needs to break up play, in my opinion.
Okay, so final decision on your 6.
Yeah, I think Weaver is the one for me of anyone.
I think that's a good show.
So we have then. I think it's you've sold Luis Diaz. Who's coming in to replace him?
See, I don't necessarily think we need to replace left wing because we've got Jota who can play there. We've got Gakpo who can play there a push. You know, we're very lucky in the sense of we've got a lot of versatile players, and in slot system, he likes his wingers to come very inverted. He likes them to shoot at goal, not stay out wide. Nunez, for me, would be the ideal left winger in that regard, just cutting inside. I think I'd have Nunez on the left and then maybe put someone like Gakpo in the middle, or maybe Jota in the middle. I don't think it needs too much cover, and we're very lucky in the sense of we have such versatile players who can play in that position. So I wouldn't be replacing it. I wouldn't be bringing in a left winger. I'd just be moving Nunez over to there and letting Gakpo flourish in the middle more than anything.
So you pocket that money then?
What was that, sorry?
So you just pocket the money for Luis Diaz then?
Yeah. Okay. I'm not the Glazers do it, why can't I?
Take it home.
So your front line this season is going to be Nunez, Salah, Gakpo, Jota.
No, so keep. So it's a front three. It's Gakpo can play in the middle because he does like to come deep, and he's going to get up front as well with a number 10. I think Nunez on the left, Salah on the right. You've got a good quality, like Salah cutting inside is his best strength. Nunez loves running at goal. That's all he's going to do on the left wing, which is fantastic. You've then got Gakpo who can come deep, and you've got a number 10 in Szoboszlai or McAllister. And the number 10 role in slot system is to get into the box to score chances. Gakpo coming deep, drawing players to him to create space for the likes of Nunez and Salah and Szoboszlai and McAllister is probably the best system for slot to be using, in my opinion.
But you've still only got 4 forwards, and one of those in Jota is, as by your own admission, really quite injury prone. Are you not looking at someone like Somerville from Leeds, who you've been linked with quite heavily, or are you genuinely just happy to pocket the money and walk away?
No. So I think if we do sign someone, it's probably going to have to be over on the right. So I think because Salah, we've got the likes of Doak, who I've said I want to stick around the squad. You've then got Kay Gordon, who'd go on loan. I think Johan Bakayoko would be a fantastic player to come in for us on the right wing. I think he's young, energetic, 20 years old. He would probably cost a pretty penny. But like I said, Salah could go this summer. Salah's only got 1 year left on his contract. At some point, someone is going to have to take over that position when he leaves. I think if you bring Bakayoko in this summer, spend the money on him and a number 6, which are areas we desperately need. The left back can probably be paid by selling other players. You bring him in to deputise behind Salah, and I think that's the ideal role. If Salah does go, he might get thrown to the deep end a bit, but then you've got other players who can play there. Jota is capable of playing on the right wing. Gakpo could play there if you absolutely need to. Szoboszlai can play out there if you absolutely need to. Harvey Elliott. I just think we've got such a versatile squad that if someone goes, it's not the absolute end of the world. And we've got more options on left wing than we do on the right. Bring in Bakayoko, deputising to Salah. You've got 2 options in every position, and then you've got the option of other players who can play in a magnitude of different positions going there if you absolutely need to.
Something else that might change your mind here, Lewis. AFCON 2025 Salah will be gone for a large period, and then
What's the
3.
Is it the same time of the year when Salah goes?
Yeah, they do
January,
back-to-back
February,
AFCONs.
Yeah, AFCON.
Yeah,
I'm
because
literally on the Wikipedia page now.
There was
2025.
a COVID issue, wasn't there, with the last AFCON or something like
Yeah,
that?
it's going to be in Morocco in 2025.
Sounds like a nice holiday.
Yeah, and
Sounds
we
like a
had
nice thing
myself.
to do.
To be fair, hang on, it's not early 2025. Right, I've misread this. This happens. It starts in December 2025.
December.
Ah, well then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's not this season coming. It's the season
Yeah,
after.
season after then. Yeah.
In which case, you've taken 150 million for Salah to
Salah be around 40.
Well, I didn't say it. You said fix it. I didn't say I was going to fix it well. Like, it's just
Okay. To be fair, you said at the very, very outset of this podcast, don't fix something that isn't broken. And I'm just reading our Attacking Football podcast chat now, which Alfie is beavering away in with your new updated squad, and you've added 5 players
And got rid of 12, whether that's permanent or not.
I think, well, it's like you look at City and you could sit there and go, they're a perfect squad. They've got this, they've got that. Calvin Phillips is still on their books. Like, Jack Grealish isn't up to form at the moment. No squad is like absolutely perfect. I think we are in such a good position behind the scenes, and we have such a talented group of players on the pitch, but there's still players there that could go. Arsenal have still got players that could go. City have still got players that could go. That Real Madrid side just won the Champions League. There's a couple of players in that team who probably need to leave. It's not so much fixing the immediate problems, it's anticipating what's going to happen, because Salah is going to go soon. Van Dijk is getting older. Robertson is getting older. There's a time now past the Klopp era, going into the Arne era, where we need to start thinking about the future. And like Aiton Yori's 22, Bakayoko's 20. There's young talents coming into that squad to anticipate the next few years under Slot, because I don't see us pulling the trigger on him. I don't see us saying, right, off you go after a season or so. He's probably going to get given the time. So we need to bring players in who are going to give him every opportunity to do it for a long period of time.
The issue with the Bakayoko thing is Liverpool need to move very quick on that. There's only three clubs he's going to go to. Well, 4. It'll be either Bayern Munich, Leipzig, Liverpool, or Borussia Dortmund. They're the only clubs that can afford him that he'll be willing to go to. He won't go to United or Arsenal or anything like that. And Liverpool were waiting to clarify the Salah situation. So it's kind of like nothing will happen till after the Euros, but if Liverpool want him, it has to be this summer. Kind of. Otherwise, he's going to go to the Bundesliga.
Yeah, which, I mean, like I said, Bakayoko is very in demand. And I think it is just a sort of, he's more of a dream signing. But like, there's any winger now is so expensive. And there's not a lot out there, which sort of, like I said before, Bowen is exponentially expensive. Rodrigo's getting linked with moving away from Madrid. He'd probably cost, like 100 million. Bakayoko is just the most age appropriate, fits the FSG model of bring them in young and develop them. Not expensive, but not cheap. It's just the most sort of perfect amalgamation of everything. If it was pick your dream right winger to play, it'd be Saka, but I'm not spending like 150 million on him. So I think Bakayoko is probably just the best of the situation that we could get at the moment.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, well, I think that's your squad finished, Lewis. Well done. There's certainly some hot takes in there, but we're not finished yet. The next part of fixing Liverpool Football Club comes above the squad. That's the management. So we're going to give you now FSG's keys, and you're going to sit in the boardroom, and you're going to choose what's going on with the management. So, section 2, let's go.
So, obviously, for the last 2 years, it's been quite depressing for me to watch Liverpool being as good as they were. Jurgen Klopp was such a good manager, but there was flaws in Jurgen Klopp's sides, particularly with sometimes conceding goals in games that they really shouldn't have conceded goals in. when Slot comes in, what are the biggest weaknesses from Jurgen Klopp's sides and Jurgen Klopp's systems that you'll be looking for Slot to try and kind of fix?
That's a good question, actually. I think Slot's the issue with Klopp was he was so stubborn in the sense of the back line needs to press high. There's no debating it. You're always high. And when we got caught out is because teams ran in behind. It wasn't anything like spectacular. It was just we were our own worst enemy. I think Slot's coming into a side that's been ran to death, and he wants to play a more possession-based style of football. I think the sooner he can get that across to the players, the better, because there's always that sort of like there's still going to be, how do I explain it? They're still going to be like zoned in on what Klopp's taught them. They're still going to want to press high. They're still going to want to exhume a lot of energy. And Slot's very intense at what he does. But I think the sooner he can get to them and just say, look, calm it down. We dictate the tempo of the game. That is going to be crucial. We don't have a young, sprightly backline. Kwanzaa and Trent are probably the two in there. The rest are all like mid to late 20s. They're not the most like quick full centre backs and full backs. The sooner he can come in, calm down that back line, and just instill into them the belief that we dictate how this match goes. We dictate the way that we play. It's our possession game. Other teams have to figure us out. That'll be brilliant, because Klopp got figured out towards the end and teams learn how to beat him. Slot's coming in with a new way of playing, and the sooner we can get that across to everyone, the better.
100% agree with that, to be honest. The biggest thing as well about Klopp, look, his personality was it was infectious for you, as I'm sure. It wasn't infectious for us. Although even as a United fan, you can respect what type of character he was and how he could be loved by a fan base. What does Slot need to do? Like, what qualities does a Liverpool manager need to have to succeed within the club? Does he need to be charismatic? Does he need to be this huge personality? Or does he just need to be a head coach?
If you look at like Benitez wasn't the most personable. He was very to himself. He was very stern, but we loved him because of what he delivered on the pitch. The manager doesn't necessarily need to connect with us in that regard. We just want to see progression. We just want to see signs that things are moving in the right direction. Klopp came in at a time when we were struggling. We were in a horrible position coming off of the back of Brendan Rodgers' reign. Things were looking bad. We lost our best players. And he came in with the message, we got to change from doubters to believers. And that was the perfect thing he could do. The first few words that Slot says to these fans, the first things that he comes in need to be perfect. He doesn't have to be the most personable person, but he needs to give us that confidence and belief that things are going in the right direction, that he has a plan, that he knows what he wants to do, and he's not coming in and being enamored by the size of the club. As long as we as fans can see that things are going well, and we trust the system and he trusts the system, then we will absolutely love him. As long as it's just not Roy Hodgson, I'm happy.
Do you think his system, the system he plays, I'm sure you've watched it before, or do you think it is a perfect kind of fit for Liverpool's squad?
Yeah, we've been crying for a bit of a double pivot for a long time, and we tried it with Trent going inverted. People call it like a 4-2-3-1. He calls it like a 4-3-3. Having that two in midfield is going to be so important for us defensively, and it's something that we've lacked at times, having one defensive midfielder and then two central midfielders who have to come back and go forward and box to box and burn themselves out. I think it'll be exciting. He's got great players to work with. I think Szoboszlai is going to shine in this system. Possession-based football, controlling the tempo of the game is what we've been wanting now for the past 2 years, I'd say. I think if he can get that instilled, if he comes with that, it's going to be absolutely amazing to watch. And I think it can fit perfectly, especially with the quality of players who have pressed their hearts out for Klopp, who are very good on the ball. It's everything Slot's going to need. And we signed him because he plays similar to the way Klopp does, but he's coming in with the idea of dictating tempo. So Yeah, I think it'll be perfect.
I think Slot is he's lucky in the fact that before we appointed the manager, we'd already announced that Edwards had came back, and I think the fact it was Edwards coming back choosing Slot has given him kind of like a belief amongst Liverpool fans that this is the right guy. Because if it wasn't Edwards choosing him, I think there would be a lot of different reception to him coming in.
Absolutely. No, I agree. We saw the past 2 seasons with Jörg Schmadtke and Klopp when they were doing the signings. They weren't great. They weren't bad, but there was clearly a sort of, for the first time in a long time, we were missing targets. We were getting players we didn't expect, like Endo, for example. No disrespect to him, but the backroom staff, the people in charge, I cannot recall a time where it's been as organised and as positive and as together as it is when you've got Michael Edwards, Julian Ward, Richard Hughes, who have all worked together before, or it's so integral, and it's such smart business of the club to get that backroom staff in order, because we've spent the past few seasons not doing what Klopp wants, but it was clear that it's okay because we've got Klopp. He's gone, so build the infrastructure back up so that whoever comes in, be it Slot, be it the following manager who doesn't quite succeed from him if he doesn't do very well, there's a clear infrastructure that any manager can bounce off of and do really well with.
Yeah, that's fair.
Do you think? Go ahead, Ellie.
I was just going to say, now that you're probably over the fact that Klopp has gone, you've had a good amount of time to go from he's going to he's gone. Is Slot almost taking on a bit of a poison chalice, much in the same way? I mean, I'm going to refer back to Man United. I'm a Man United fan. I can only apologise. But much like David Moyes when he took over from Sir Alex Ferguson, where there was just such a massive presence in the club that's now now that he's gone, there's going to be such a huge void. And I don't just mean on the training ground or in the stadium at matches. I mean from everything. He did everything, and Arne Slot's going to have to come in now and kind of take on some of that and give some of that back to Michael Edwards. And is that too much? I've asked you about 4 questions in one there, but you can choose which one you want.
So I think the worst thing Slot can do is try to one-up Klopp, because it's not going to happen. Like, when you touched on when Sir Alex Ferguson left United, it's the same as when Wenger left Arsenal. There's been numerous times in the past where big managers have left, but the difference was Wenger's squad was poor. The United squad that you had, Vidic was old, Ferdinand, Evra, these players were getting on, and it was obvious to everyone that there was a decline, but Sir Alex was able to paper over the cracks. We've got a fantastic squad. We've got a young crop of players. Arne Slot is not coming into a dire situation where you've got the Glazers stealing money out of your club with players who aren't going to be there much longer. He's coming into an established backroom staff with smart spending that isn't breaching any rules. He's got a talented group of young players. He's never going to be able to, I mean, I hope he can, but he's never going to be able to outdo what Klopp did. He's never going to be able to get to our hearts the way Klopp did. But I don't think he should try to. I don't think he should try to outdo him. He's his own person, his own personality. Be his self and just get us playing good football, and the fans will warm to you naturally. It's not, as much as we loved Klopp having a personality, it was what he did on the pitch that we'll remember more than anything. And a manager's not here to be a charismatic, look at me, I'm funny, look at my interviews. He's there to deliver results. And as long as Slot's doing that, the fans will just warm to him.
I think the worst thing that he could do is come in and try and be Klopp.
Yeah, exactly. It won't work.
The worst thing he can do as an outsider looking in, and Dylan, you might agree with me, Scott, you might not. You're obviously a Liverpool fan, but the worst news for me as a Man United fan was seeing you get Slot, because he is really, really rated highly. And we were ecstatic when we found out that Klopp was leaving. It's like, way, the glory days are gone.
We had a house party.
I genuinely, hand on heart, I genuinely believe that you are going to be in a much better position than Man United was when Sir Alex Ferguson left, and Arsenal was when Wenger left.
I think any club on the planet is in a better position. than United after Fergie left. To be honest.
Yeah. No, but you know what I mean. I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson retired and he left the squad. He knew he was retiring. He knew he didn't have to put as much into it, and he retired knowing that the next guy had an awful lot of work to do. Arsene Wenger left Arsenal under somewhat of a cloud. I think he was probably going to be pushed eventually, but he ended up going on his own steam. And that squad was really in quite a bit of trouble while Wenger was still there. That's not the case with Klopp. Klopp, for the last month of the season, was in a full-blown title race with Arsenal and Man City. There's no getting away from that. It's a very, very good state of affairs for Liverpool Football Club. And as long as he can come in and kind of keep his foot on the gas, I don't think you'll have the kind of drop off and fall down that those other two clubs had.
No, I completely agree. Yeah.
Okay. We said we were going to give you the keys to the boardroom. You've talked a little bit about Slot. You've talked about Edwards. You've talked about Julian Ward. Is there anyone missing, do you think? Do you think there's maybe a cog that needs to be put in place that isn't there now, or maybe there's a bad apple there that you think, I don't really want you in and around the club?
You know what? Like, we're still not sure who the coaches are. Like, I know Arne Slot's like first team coach, he's head coach, but we're still not sure exactly who the assistants are. There's a couple, I think 3 have been announced, but there's still people saying, this person's coming, and they're having to come out and say, no, we're definitely not. So there is still a few little bits missing, and maybe that's why Slot hasn't been announced. In terms of bad apples, I think the only thing that can sour it a bit is, it's the FSG debate again. I don't think FSG are bad owners. I actually think the opposite. But they do need to start putting a little bit of money in, especially in this new era. This isn't like when Klopp was there, you could give him, chicken, and he'd make it into chicken salad. You might not be able to do that with Slot. So they need to put their hands in their pockets and actually invest a little bit more. I understand there's regulations. I understand that what they've done is so key, but it can put a dampener on it. We don't have a lot of personalities, and it's such a rarity. But Sepp Vandenberg, for example, is the only player since Mamadou Sakho who in this Liverpool squad has vocally came out and been kicked from the squad because I think he's testing the waters now that Klopp's gone. He's like, I can say whatever I want. How Slot handles that is going to be so crucial going into this next season, because it's the same as what Klopp did with Sakho. He didn't take any messing around. There's no bad personalities per se. Get rid of Sepp Vandenberg after this whole palaver. You set the standard, and I don't think anyone's going to be speaking out of line. In terms of people who shouldn't be there or anything that's missing, it's literally just the coaching staff, and I don't think there's anyone in particular who I want to see go because they're disrupting everything. We're a very together squad, very together ownership, and there's not too many complaints from me in that regard, just a bit more expenditure probably.
So one final question for me before we move on to section 3, which is the fan Q&A. You are FSG in this scenario, right? What are you putting as item 1 on Arne Slot's to-do list when he arrives at Anfield?
That's a good question. That's hard. Let us know who you want to be your starters, and we will build a squad around that. Because if you say to us, look, Konate is good, but the injuries are concerning me, then we can plan for that. I don't want it to be a case of he has the whole squad, give it a few months down the road, suddenly we need this, and then we're in a panic, and we're in the same situation like we are last season where we're bidding 100 million on Caicedo. He needs to sort of have an idea of who he wants to work with, and then we can sell the players that aren't needed, like Vandenberg, like Reece Williams, Tsimikas, these kind of players. Get the funds together and then invest in the parts of the pitch that he knows need improving, like the number 6. It's so key that he knows what he's working with, and it's key that he knows how he's going to get his style of play out of these players. So just have a bit of a plan coming in, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good chat. Okay. Well, any questions from Scott, Dylan?
No. Everything's been covered, I think, there. Unless Dylan has any.
I covered all of them in my tearful Wolves.
If we're keeping those two quiet, then that must mean that you have successfully fixed Liverpool Football Club. Well done, Lewis.
Yes.
Congratulations, mate. It was a team effort, but we got there in the end. Well done.
Give me
Thank you very
keys.
much.
Mate, all that's left now is, as you know, in the last couple of days on the Attacking Football Twitter, we asked our fans, your fans, LFC Transfer Room fans, to throw in some questions for you. So we're going to put you in the hot seat now, and Alfie, our producer, is going to do fan Q&A.
Yeah, so I feel like this one will be a good one to start with, as it's from Fatali Mohammed that has worked for Attacking Football and LFC Transfer Room. And he said, if the club is going to sign a centre-back, is it necessary that he is left-footed, or will it be all right for Van Dijk to play as a left centre-back?
Ooh, I don't think he needs to be left-footed, but it would be nice. It would be like Inacio, I believe, is left-footed. That'd be a really good one. I don't think it's crucial. I know people who absolutely say it is. I'm just not too bothered, to be honest. Like, one thing, don't disrupt what Van Dijk's doing. You know, don't fix what ain't broken before. Same thing with Van Dijk. Like, just don't keep him where he is and build around him as the way it should be. I'm not too concerned. If they can be left-footed, brilliant. But don't go out of the way to try and force the issue. Like, it's not. To me, it's not the end of the world if they're not. As long as they can defend and they're competent on the ball, that's all I'm bothered about.
I think that might be why we're probably looking for like a hybrid centre back, left back, because Van Dijk plays on that left side. So if you're signing a centre back, they're probably not going to start over Van Dijk on the left hand side.
Yeah.
So probably if you're going to sign someone, it'll be someone that could also play left back.
Yeah, which, you know, Gomez can do that. There's a lot of players out there at the minute who are capable. Nathan Ake is the prime example of it, you know. So there's a lot of people capable of doing it, and if that's what the club are going to do, then no reason to not trust them.
Don't mention Nathan Ake's name around Scott. He gets very annoyed.
Yeah, moving on. This is from at SFC Alex Surrey, and he said, what area around the club will suffer from the departure of Klopp the most?
Oh, God. Why will suffer?
The media.
Klopp's wallet's not going to struggle, Jesus. It's not going to get fined. What's going to struggle the most? You know what? I think sales, and it sounds really daft and like sort of hear me out a bit, but Klopp is so well renowned, and you've got like Klopp merchandise, you've got pop figures, you've got like t-shirts. I think the club commercially is going to struggle a little bit to push on Slot, if that makes sense. Like, I've seen people wearing Jurgen Klopp t-shirts, hats. I've got like stuff of them here. Don't think Arne Slot's going to sort of have that same impact. It doesn't touch the same demographic. So financially, from a revenue standpoint of merchandise sales and reaching key demographics, I think that might be one area we struggle. For a bit of a sort of business-minded answer, that's probably the only one I can really think of, because there's nothing on the pitch or anything particularly first team or backroom staff that I think is going to struggle too much. So that's the only thing I can think of.
Just remember your answer with that when we're in the who's the greatest manager of all time debate, when you're saying the club won't struggle at all in any aspect apart from commercially once he's gone. So we've got you on the record now.
Oh, God. All right, it's fine. I'll stand by it.
Okay.
Yeah, next we have at Yasin Ihab 93, and he said, how could Slot deal with the difference in level between the Everdice and Europa League level football to the Premier League and Champions League? How will he deal with the personalities in Liverpool squad?
Well, as I said, but I don't think there's many big personalities. Salah's probably the biggest, and even then, like apart from the West Ham match, which was purely because of like on-field stuff, I don't think he's going to struggle too much with sort of getting across his vision. As I say, what he does with Sepp Vandenberg is crucial to sort of set the standards and be like, you do not take the mick here. Like, you do what I say or you're gone. In terms of how he'll cope with that's entirely up to him. We need to see, like we've seen with so many managers. Gus Hiddink was one who came from the Eredivisie, did okay, but did struggle at points. Erik ten Hag is another one. It just depends how the players take to his system. I don't believe saying this person's come from this league, so they're going to do poor in this league is a fair sort of assumption. Roberto De Zerbi, while I don't think he's fantastic, he was in the Ukrainian league. It's hardly the peak of football, but then he comes to Brighton and he does a very good job for the first season. So we just need to wait and see. We just need to see if the players can adapt to his play style, but I think he'll be fine. I'm not expecting fire next season. I think we are going to struggle, but I think it will translate well.
Yeah, this one's from @Chris Later, and he said, "Will Liverpool go back in for Ugarte this window after missing out on him last season? Moises Caicedo and Lavia last summer. Endo done a decent job, but surely it can't be the final piece of the puzzle."
Yeah, no, I agree. Endo's not the final piece. Bless him. He does a job, but he's not the end product. Ugarte, no. I think PSG will charge us like astronomical prices for him. I don't think he's the player we'll go for. It's too much money. I just think, as limited options as there are other options that are a bit more cost effective, I think.
Don't forget, in your squad, you moved Endo on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Endo's gone, but, Ugarte is just... I'm not spent. I don't want to spend. It's my board. I'll do what I want.
Moving on. This is from Leo597, and he said, "If Liverpool finish top 4, will that be a successful season or a failure?"
I think it's successful as long as there's a clear trajectory. Like if we scrape it because every other team does really, really poor, like Chelsea and Tottenham and United all have off seasons, and we scrape it, then it's a failure. But if we can get top 4 and consistently keep in Europe, and we're showing clear signs of progressing in slot style of play, and things seem to just be on the up, then I think it's a success. That's the only way in which I can sort of see it being a failure, is just if we limp over the line. And like United are a good example, and I actually have no real hatred towards United. I'm not going to lie. Like Ten Hag last season won you a trophy. You got 3rd place. Fantastic. But I think because other teams around you did so poor, it sort of created this. We're playing fantastic football, and this season it's sort of shown a little bit. And I don't want that to be the case where we play bad football, get top 4, and think everything's fine just for it to drop off majorly the next season. There just needs to be clear progression.
Yeah, that's my expectation as well. I always had top 4, but comfortable top 4.
Yeah, definitely.
Fair enough. Last of all, and this is from a fellow Liverpool fan @Harvey on the Ball, and he said, "What players do you think will benefit most from ARNE Slot's arrival, and who do you think could struggle under him?"
Ooh, these questions. I tell you what, these questions are good. Like, I'm having a great time.
Attacking football fans, no ball. I'm telling you.
Right, players who I'll do struggle just to sort of get the bad out of the way. Depends who I've sold and who I've kept. Struggle, I can't. I mean, Elliot might. I know he presses, but Slot wants his players to go inverted, and Elliot always seems to go out wide. So maybe I'd struggle. That's your hard.
Squad, the squad you built is in your DMs, by the way. If you want to refer to that.
Is that in my DMs? I mean, I think I remember them, but I just want to... I was wondering why you were sending me photos. I was like...
What's he sending?
LA sending pictures of his dinner.
Yeah.
Thought you meant to say something else.
See pictures of mine.
Mate, as long as it's my dinner and nothing else, I don't think he'll mind.
He doesn't want to see pictures of mine.
Wow. Players who'd struggle. I can't really see many. Salah maybe will go off the boil a little bit, because the system isn't going to revolve around him as it did under Klopp at points. He's not a presser per se. He's not a high tempo attacker like he used to be. So he may go off the boil a little bit. Beyond that, I think Szoboszlai is going to absolutely excel as the number 10. He will be the number 10 in my opinion. He's going to score bags of goals. Nunez is another one. I think he's going to fly under Slot. It's easy to say, and then in 6 months' time, when this gets clipped up and I haven't got a channel anymore. But no, I think he'll be another one who'll just absolutely fly under ARNE Slot. He's going to get him playing great pressing football. He's going to score bags of the goals. I can't see many strugglers, but there's 3 or 4 who I can see definitely. Alexander-Arnold. I'm excited to see him under Slot system. He loves fullbacks, and there's none better than Trent. So.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
that final line There's none
He
better
always
than
do.
Trent.
He always inverts. He inverts his right back and keeps his left back out wide. So Trent will flourish in that system. I think it's what do they call it? A lopsided 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, look,
all I know
on, Dylan.
before we go.
Go on.
Where does Klopp rank in the best managers in Premier League history?
Oh, fuck! Don't start that fire in here.
So
I'm not starting fire. I want to listen.
I did a video on my channel for this, and I did like the top 10, and I think I said Klopp was fourth. Oh no, fifth. I said fifth.
I'd actually agree with you.
No, sorry. Let me just have a. Was it fourth or fifth?
I actually said fourth.
I was going to say, because I think I put him ahead of Mourinho, but beneath, because Ferguson was 1, Pep was 2, and then it was Wenger was 3, Klopp was 4, Mourinho was 5.
I'd probably have Klopp 5th, but look, it's all up for debate.
Yeah, I don't hate that, and
I don't hate it either. Yeah, it's up for debate, absolutely.
Yeah. Regular viewers of the Attacking Football podcast will know that it's typically a fight between me and Scott. on anything Man United Liverpool related. There is also a famous YouTube thumbnail where we've got our heads superimposed on top of boxes where we're trying to fight each other. That nearly actually happened as well. I have to say I do rate that, and I would put Klopp in the top 5 managers of all time.
Yeah, top
Premier League anyway. Let's leave out of it. In the Premier League, I would. Scott?
Yeah, he's 5th for me.
He's 5th for you.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Who's ahead of him?
I have Mourinho ahead of him, just for like the 13 goals conceded in the season or something stupid like that.
15.
I think that Chelsea season was better than the Invincible season, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Invincible season is overrated.
Leverkusen's Invincible season is better than Arsenal's, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah,
we can do this all day, but we're doing how to fix Liverpool, right? Mate, we fixed Liverpool, and I want to say thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been an insightful conversation, and honestly, hands down, one of the best guests we've had. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. You've sat here and listened to me talk waffle for about an hour. So if anything,
we do it every week with LA, so it's.
I was going to say, do you know what? You got there before I did, because I was going to say usually it's our viewers saying the same thing about me waffling, so absolutely 100% fine. Right, thank you very much for watching. The links to Lewis's channel, his Twitter, and LFC Transfer Room are in the description below. My thanks, as always, to Dylan, to Scott, to Alfie. Special thanks to LFC Transfer Room for sending Lewis over to us as well. Please don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button, and we'll see you next week where we have got a very special How to Things. See you later.